I'm back with Ayush and we're going to have a little bit of conversation today about the NFL coaching carousel. All but one vacancy has been filled, and we're going to deep dive into each signing. And then at the very end of this episode, we are going to discuss our game picks for this week's next round of playoffs, the NFL championship round. And yeah, so right after this intro, we're going to dive into that. All right. So we're going to get this started. Dive straight into it. Last night, the first, uh, well, not first, hang on. Let me retrain my train of thought here. The Dallas Cowboys finally made their decision for their new head coach, bringing in Brian Schottenheimer, their offensive coordinator. Um, Obviously, a very interesting signing. Very, I guess, on brand for Dallas because Jerry likes to live in his own little world, and that seemed to be what happened there. Brian Schottenheimer, as I mentioned, was the offensive coordinator for Dallas the past 2 years. First year in Dallas, he was one of the main catalysts for Dallas's explosive offense. They called it the Texas Coast offense. Last year, they continued with the Texas Coast offense, but there's a lot of speculation that the reason why, even before the Dak Prescott injury and injuries all over the place, that the Dallas offense was not playing great football this year prior to the injuries, offensively and defensively. But on the offensive side uh, of the field, they were still running remnants of the Texas Coast offense that Mike McCarthy had uh, put into place starting the year prior. However, I think that it would have been 2022 after the 2022 season, they fired Kellen Moore. He was their offensive coordinator. I think that there were still remnants of the Kellen Moore concepts in the Dallas Cowboys offense heading into the the next season in 2023 when they were successful. And I think they were able to kind of mesh the aggression of the Kellen Moore offense with a little bit more efficiency. But then in 2024, they overcompensated, went way too efficient, way too predictable, and I think they kind of pushed out the Kellen Moore remnant. So I'll let you talk about what your uh, thinking was with that selection, Ayush, and I'll share my full opinion on that here in a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, you probably got a lot to say about this one, but um, it's for sure an interesting one. I expected the Cowboys, to go for someone they were like familiar with. It just seems like that's something the Cowboys would do. Um, but Schottenheimer is interesting for sure. I mean, because career assistant hasn't really ha shown. Um, what am I trying to say? Success, I guess, and his time as a full-fledged offense coordinator, no matter where he's been. Um, I would say that he hasn't really had the best of like head coaches. I would say McCarthy's probably the best head coach he's been under. Um, because he was with like Jeff Fisher before and with the Rams, I think most notably.
Well,
Um,
he was under Pete Carroll.
oh, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
he
was
was
there.
before.
So yeah, it was the year before he was with the Jags,
Uh-huh.
and they sucked with him. I think he was like an offensive analyst, and then I think it was the year before that was his last year in Seattle. But notably, do you remember the? Obviously, you remember the Let Russ Cook movement.
Yeah.
Um, Schottenheimer was the OC at he was an
Uh-huh.
OC at that time, and they went, I think, their best year under Schottenheimer's offensive coordinator or as an offensive coordinator. They, I want to say, I want to say that was a year that it was 20, it would have been 2018, and they went like, I think that was still under the 16 game season, and they went like 11-5, and they lost to Dallas in Dallas in the wild card round. That was the year that it was
Interesting.
like third and 14, and it was one of the better plays of Dak's career. They did a QB draw up the middle, and he just like flipped to the 1 yard line and got all 14 yards. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure going to be something that I think a lot of people are going to have patience with. I mean, this is not, I don't think he's the coach that you want for a team that's in contention to potentially be in the last four, last eight teams left in January, you know? So I really think it's going to be something that is going to have a lot of like kinks to work out in the beginning. Um, but he also hasn't had the chance to really show what he's capable of, I think. He's been in very various places, Jeff Fisher, I think that Rams team was not really good at all. Um, the Seahawks, the Jags team was really good at all. Doug Peterson is probably behind a lot of the offensive um, scheming of that. Um, the Seahawks were probably, I'm trying to remember, was 21, right? That was the season, 21
Uh,
Seahawks.
2021. He was fired. So, and then he
Gotcha.
went over to the Jack. So he went over his first year in Jacksonville was 2021, and he was with Seattle from 2018 to 2021. So yeah, his first year
Gotcha.
would have been the let Russ cook year.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I he obviously wasn't the guy that would probably be on anyone's like top of the list, but I think he's a guy that you gotta. There's at least some potential, I guess, to him, which is not really what you want out of a head coach, in my opinion. But um, I mean, there's a lot of question marks around him, but um, I think right now it's just like you're trying to figure out what he's capable of and if he's able to not just have the schematic mind to lead the Cowboys back to where they want to be, but also the culture setter, um,
Yeah.
which is going to be interesting working with Jerry as well. So I think honestly it's just going to be a lot of question marks heading into this season. Um, we're, we're just going to have to see how he does. He will have a healthier offense for sure. Dak will be back. They'll probably have a better running back as their number one option this upcoming season. Maybe some wide receiver help as well. But overall, it's just I think this is really just a wait and see hire, which is I don't think what the Cowboys really want at this point in their roster structure, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It definitely is a wait and see hire. This My mindset going into this entire time was I want an offensive minded, younger type of coach. I mean, Schottenheimer's 51, so he's younger than some of these other options that we had available. But if we were going to go this route, really, I never preferred Kellen Moore as a head coach, but I think Kellen Moore would have been the right path here. I am curious about how that interview went because Kellen Kellen Moore's interview with the Dallas Cowboys took an hour. They had a 3 hour time period, so it didn't take the entire time. So I wonder if they even told him, "Hey, we want you as a head coach." I wonder if they were trying to be like, "Hey, come back and be our OC. We'll buy you out from Philly, give you a bigger contract." Just because the reason that he departed, I don't think had anything to do with uh, Dallas disliking him. I think it had more with Mike McCarthy wanting to take control of the offense, and and I I would assume that Kellen Moore, if he was truly offered a head coach job in Dallas, he would have taken it. So I do wonder if they were just trying to bring him back as an OC, and the entire time Schottenheimer was their guy. In addition to that, Robert Sala was interviewed for this role as well. Last night, literally about 5 minutes after Schottenheimer was officially introduced as, or not introduced, but officially announced as the Dallas Cowboys head coach, they did Sala the news that Salah was going to be the DC in San Francisco once again broke about 5 minutes after the Schottenheimer news. So I would, I think it's very easy to assume, and I think it's I think it's very likely and probable that Salah was waiting on either being given an offer for Dallas as a head coach, and then he was gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna be a head coach, so I'll just go to be a defensive coordinator in San Francisco. Or he was waiting for Dallas to, or he knew he wasn't going to be the head coach in Dallas, but he was hoping that they would maybe make a different selection other than Schottenheimer. And he was like, Shanahan and a slightly more talented defense, or you go to Schottenheimer in a situation that is really messy in Dallas, working under Jerry Jones and as a DC. I think that was an easy decision for him to make. But yeah, let's go back to San Francisco. I already had success there. There's still a lot of those types, a lot of those players. The core of that defense is the same from when he departed in what it would have been 2020, no 2021. I want to say ballpark that Salah left
Yeah,
San Francisco. Um, and because you still have Fred Warner there, Nick Bosa's a more obviously a more evolved version of himself. There's still a lot of those players that are still there, and he can go back to uh, bringing that defense back to what it was not long ago as one of the single best defenses in the league. So I. As a Cowboys fan, I was really hoping that we would be able to get a CEO who was really advanced schematically, young and advanced schematically with how to run an offense. And then we hire a defensive coordinator that could kind of just be the head coach. I mean, this really is what a defensive coordinator is. They're the head coach of the defense. But what I mean by that is where the coach lays all the groundwork, the head coach lays all the groundwork for the culture, but really is just hands off on the defense. And that's what I was hoping was young offensive coach, uh, bring in a more veteran offensive coordinator, and then defensively, you bring in basically someone who is just fully hands on defense. The head coach pretty much has very little to do with the schematics and more to do with the situational aspects of the defense. Kind of like what it was with Dan Quinn. Obviously, different coach, but when Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator of Dallas, it was really just Mike McCarthy was hands off with what happened with the defense. Dan Quinn took full control of that defense, and I guess a little bit similarly with the Mike Zimmer led defense, it was full on. Mike Zimmer had the keys to the car with that defense. Um, but I'm really curious with Schottenheimer how this coaching staff gets built. Eberflus was the first name to get thrown out there for the DC position. I am not. I think he can run a viable defense, but I am not a fan of how Eberflus is in terms of how he's not a very well spoken individual in my opinion. I never liked the way that he led a team. He's schematic. He can control a well orchestrated defense. But I now that you have a very unproven head coach in Schottenheimer as your head coach, you need to bring in someone that is a tone setter, a someone that's going to be very well spoken, someone that is very powerful on that defense. And that's what I thought Sala was. That's what I think. Zimmer had some growing pains up front, but Zimmer's um he will choose someone out if they do something wrong. And I think that was something that up front in his the early portion of this past season, Mike Zimmer was that a lot of reports came out, and Zimmer said this himself that he had a hard time being able to become himself, show his true colors up front because he knew how good the defense was before under Dan Quinn, and he didn't like wasn't fully on board with the idea of coming in guns a blazing when that defense was already so efficient and then kind of get a lot of backlash from the players. So he wanted to ease into it. and that was showed up on the field because they weren't being kind of really, you know, they're grown men, but there weren't really disciplinary actions that were taking place when a player, you know, blew a coverage or something like that. And that showed up on the field, particularly in the early portion of the season when the defense was like worse than league in every metric. So now that you have Schottenheimer, I'm really hoping that they're able to bring in a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator that are both experienced and able to take control so that Schottenheimer can be more of a CEO type of guy. Okay, so I'm gonna move on. Hope that's me as a Cowboys fan, so I kind of just vented all the way through that. I'm really struggling here, guys. I did not like that hire. I hope that it works out, obviously, but um, there it didn't seem like the most efficient process to bring in the head coach. I wish they would have interviewed. There was now that every single coaching hire has taken place, other than one who I think is actually going to be McCarthy in New Orleans, to be honest. Um, now that everything's taken place, you have more time now. So like you're not competing with anyone for these head coaches. So I feel like now they could have been like, okay, who else can we interview and really go thoroughly through this process now? But anyways, Chicago brought in the blockbuster hire here. Ben Johnson was the guy. Everyone wanted him. Um, Offensive super mind, uh, younger dude. He was exactly what I wanted in Dallas. Not just what he did in the past couple years, but the kind of prototype in addition to the success was just so perfect for Dallas. Um, but there was never any mutual interest. I don't think on any side. But Ayush, I know you have the most experience watching him because you're a Packers fan. You've watched him. How long was he in Detroit? You had been there ever since. Was it
I think
since the
since
first year
Campbell's
of Cam?
second year.
Yeah. Oh,
Second year.
second year. Okay, so he
Yeah.
came in the year that I guess it would have been they beat y'all last season or last game of the season and made y'all miss
Yeah.
the playoffs, right?
Yep.
So he came in the year that they went 9-8, uh, and obviously a lot of success. That was the first year that they were able to kind of get back, or not get back, because there wasn't really anything to get back to, but get into offensive success for the first time in forever. Other than a couple Stafford years. Okay, so I'll pass it on to you. Tell me a little bit of what you thought of this hiring and what you think he can do for the Bears.
I think it's a great hire for him, which is unfortunate. I mean, he's a very creative mind, and I think he also has that culture he's learned from Dan Campbell, who has built that culture from the ground up. And just seeing him speak in that introductory press conference, he seems confident in his ability to lead the Bears, which is good, you know. It'll be interesting to see how well it gets put onto the field, but um, I mean, the Bears have constructed this roster to be good now. You know, maybe they could add one more receiver with Keenan Allen on the decline. But you got your hopefully franchise quarterback in Caleb, a good running back tandem in DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson. Um, Great receiving core, Cole Kmet at tight end. You know, so they're set to really kind of kick the door down this season, especially with an offensive-minded head coach. Um, Obviously, the only problem that they had, or the not the only, but the biggest problem that they had on offense was the O line and the sack problem. I think Caleb led the league by a good margin and getting sacked. So I think adding Ben Johnson, his mind into that fold, because I mean their OC before was Luke Getsy, and I mean he was on the Packers before, and he was just kind of there under the floor. So um, you know, he wasn't really going to do much. So I think he bringing Ben Johnson is going to add a whole level of creativity. Um, I think the biggest thing for Ben Johnson is really going to be like not necessarily time management, but just situational awareness, I guess, is the best way to do it. As a rookie head coach and seeing when is the best time to do all the crazy things that you want to do with the offense that you're capable of doing, you know. Because obviously in their last game this past season, having Jameson Williams throw the ball um, when your season is on the line is not necessarily the greatest play call. So I think I don't think he should be any less aggressive. But it's just knowing the time and place of using those calls. Um, I think DJ Moore is going to be he's going to benefit greatly from the just the creativeness, all the jet sweeps, the motions, the end
He could
arounds.
be their Amon-Ra St. Brown
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
used the same
Like,
exact way, honestly.
so I think they have the same type of mold that the Lions have to be successful. It's going to come down to Caleb, and how he takes his next step. I mean, he was really solid this past season, but is he going to continue to be good? Is he going to make the right plays, limit mistakes? Hopefully, they structure the O line a little a little bit better, but he's got to do a better job of avoiding sacks as well at some points. But I really like this hire, and who's their DC now? Do they
They might not have one yet. Do they have one yet?
not? Did they just keep the same guy? I don't remember who it was beforehand, but like Thomas Brown or whatever it was.
Yeah, they're interviewing guys right now. They
Gotcha.
just
Yeah.
interviewed the
So
Vikings. I don't know what he does, but Durante Jones, I don't know what position he is for the
interesting.
Vikings. It
Yeah,
was
and
Eric
he's
Washington.
I have no idea who that is honestly. But I mean, Ben Johnson's also brought in like a lot of his fellow buddies from the Lions. Antoine Randall L is coming over, the wide receivers coach. I think the quarter isn't it? What's his name? JT Barrett. He's the quarterbacks coach for the Lions, and he what came over to the Bears, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that
Uh,
sounds familiar. That would have been yesterday too. I remember seeing. Yeah, he's gonna be their quarterbacks coach. Yep.
yeah, so a lot of that line staff is coming over to the Bears on the offensive side. So I think it's really just about execution. Now the scheme's going to be there, the players are there. I think the culture is there, um, and it's really just going to be about are the players on the field, namely Caleb, gonna do their part to really push this team up to where they want to be. And if the DC is good, then that'll also be a big help too. So
Yeah. I wonder if this is a spot for Ashton Genty to come in with Genty or with Ben Johnson being here. I
uh,
mocked him. I mocked him to the Bears um, in my mock draft earlier this week, but I could see Ben Johnson starting to look for his speedy flyer at receiver who can just run a 4-3 and just flat out fly, just like Jamison Williams, because I think that was an important part of his offense was he was able to stretch the field and then he could work it inside with the, in middle of the field passes to Amon-Ra St. Brown because he was just incredible, especially in the middle of the field. That's where Amon-Ra just works. But I think you already got your David Montgomery there and Roshan Johnson. I think that he can develop into that type of guy. I I feel like I feel like DeAndre Swift might be a guy that finds his way out though, because I think he's on a 2 year. Um,
yeah, he's
uh,
always been just kind of this on the borderline of good and bad, I feel like.
and I
And he
don't think
just
Ben Johnson wants that.
that's true.
I think he wants his Jameer Gibbs. So Genty's a little bit of a different type of player than Jameer Gibbs, but he's someone that he could
Same
he him and a Roshan Johnson type of backfield would
same production.
seem very Ben Johnson-y. So yeah, so this clearly was a hire that beyond the fact that Ben Johnson was the best available, it was a perfect hire for the Bears because you need Caleb Williams to work out. You need him to work out. And you need him not to hang on, you need him not just work out. You need him to become a top 5 type of quarterback because that's what you drafted him to be. That's what was the expectation for him when he was selected first overall a year ago. Um, so with this hire, you're able to bring the types of concepts, you're able to bring the mind to make him put in the best situation to succeed. I think they're going to draft accordingly. I think they're going to build that offensive line. And you're going to build up the trenches for this team so that Up front in the trenches, both offensively and defensively, uh, I think we're going to see them and do a lot of investing into those sides or that portion of the game, so that you can make life as easy as possible for Caleb Williams. You already have the weapons, and um, like I said, I do think that they're going to look at some changes at running back to be able to make the ground game as efficient as possible for Caleb to succeed. But there's a lot here. The skeleton, the bones of this team, it's all there. So I think now you're just trying to add some size, add some physicality up front. You already have a couple of those names. So, but yeah, Ben Johnson, I think Ben Johnson is going to do very well on this team, and he's going to elevate Caleb Williams. And this is going to be a fun team for years to come. So, okay, so the other coordinator that was taken away from the Detroit Lions was Aaron Glenn. Their defensive coordinator goes over to the Jets. Aaron Glenn, uh, I like that fit as well for them. I think that they were. This was one where I don't think it was necessarily Saleh didn't work out. I think he just wasn't the right. I think they were on the right path. I think they got the right prototype with Saleh whenever they brought him into the Jets. I just think it was one of those situations where sometimes things just don't work out. Sometimes the dots just don't connect, and it wasn't fully his fault that that team didn't work. And I think he did really well. I mean, he brought a Zach Wilson led team in multiple years to what I think it was 7-9, 7-10, and like 8-9, something like that. That's pretty
Uh,
impressive for Zach Wilson. Is just about during his time as a starter, he was just about one of the least competent quarterbacks in the entire league as for starting. For a starter, Aaron Rodgers did not work out for them. He did, statistically fill out the stat sheet in a semi decent level, especially about as good as you can for how old is he now? 40, right?
yeah, 40.
He filled out the stat sheet as about as well as you can for a 40-year-old quarterback. Um, I think that there was a little bit of a culture clash going on in that locker room. A lot of obviously everyone was expecting that team to take a jump, and I think Salah just couldn't get. He just wasn't able to get the ball rolling as well as you expected. It looked okay up front in the early portion of the season, and then things just didn't work out. He gets fired. Latter portion of the season, they sucked. So I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a good fit there. I think the culture, the tone that he's going to be able to set, I think he's a little bit more vocal than Salah is. I'll say that. I think Salah is very good for your culture, but I think sometimes he can be. I mean, obviously, I'm not there in the locker room, but sometimes I think he can be a little bit mellow about the delivery. I think Aaron Glenn's going to be a little bit more vocal about that, while setting the same type of tone. And I think that's going to add a little bit more discipline to this team because there are a lot of characters on that team. So they have the tools on paper. You look at the Jets, you're looking at one of the honestly, you might be able to say you're looking at one of the top 10 teams in the league. You have the star corner, you have underrated star defensive tackle in Quentin Williams, you have good linebackers, and then you have Garrett Wilson, you have the young superstar receiver, you have Brees Hall, one of the best running backs in the league. You have Olufushano, who they drafted last year. He had a very good rookie season. Um, you have talent littered all over the place on this team, and you have young talent that just hasn't been tapped into yet. First name that comes off, into mind there is last year Malachi Corley. You have Braylon Allen, who he showed some nice flashes last season, but you have a couple of weapons all over the place that uh, can really become a superstar, maybe not superstar, but a really, really competent caliber player for them. And I think Aaron Glenn's going to be able to tap into that for them. So, what is your thinking with Aaron Glenn, another guy that you saw a lot of football of, considering you are a Packers fan?
Yeah, I think I agree with you wholehearted on basically everything you said. He's for sure a culture guy, a defensive guy. I honestly see it as a very similar hire to Salah, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of blueprint. Um, I really think um, if they don't want to make the same mistakes that they made with Salah last time, it's really just about the player culture in the locker room, finding the right players. And that's not really a Aaron Glenn problem, really. That's more of a Joe Douglas is gone, right? They fired him.
I think so.
Which do they hire anyone GM? Whoever they're to hire Darren Mogi. I didn't even see this. Darren
Yeah,
Mogi is Broncos assistant GM.
they hired him this offseason.
Yeah, literally yesterday.
That's Darren
Uh,
Moki. That
yeah,
wow,
I didn't even see
that's
this.
got to be yeah, me neither. I that's got to be one of the more under the radar types of moves. Yeah, Darren Mogi.
Yeah,
Interesting.
assistant Broncos assistant GM. Yeah, I think, like I was saying, it's really going to be on him to make sure this team doesn't fall into the same like rut lull that they were in the past 3, 4 years with Sala. Aaron Glenn's going to do his job defensively. Um, because literally everyone on that Lions defense played hard. You saw what they did whenever they went down with all the injuries this season. The reserves came up very, very strong, and basically kept that defense afloat even without guys like Aiden Hutchinson or Alex Anzalone in a few weeks, guys like that, you know. So I think Aaron Glenn's going to do a great job on that side. Offensively, hopefully they get a really good offensive coordinator because they literally haven't been able to pair someone else with Salah the entire time. It was like what Hackett. Um, there's some before Hackett that I'm not remembering who it was, but he wasn't good. Um, so they got to make sure that they hire the right guy there. And then I think you got to kind of weed out the extraneous personalities that you don't want in that locker room now,
100%.
Um, Rodgers is on that list for sure.
Yep.
Um, it just kind of depends. Because Rodgers has a very distinct personality. It's not necessarily a bad personality. It's a personality that can lead a team to a Super Bowl, obviously.
It just needs to
Um,
be with the right. It's a very select type of personality,
exactly.
in
It
my
like
opinion. If he gets paired with the right guys, and that was the same. That was what happened with the Packers. Y'all had it was the right personality for the right time for the 20 what 18 years or whatever that he was there, and then at
yeah,
the end of it, things started to shift and it didn't fit.
exactly. So I mean, if they feel like that Aaron Glenn and the other players that they have in that roster can work with Aaron Rodgers, keep them. That's cool. If not, it's time to move on. So him, maybe Devontae as well, because Devontae was really along for the ride because of Rodgers. Um, Garrett Wilson's always, it seems like he's got one foot out the door, but I think he'll end up staying.
Agree.
Um, but yeah, it's just figuring out who's going to be that on the field leader for both sides of the ball, honestly, because I don't really think they have one on any side of the ball. Um, Sauce, I don't really think one is one
That's true.
defensively. I'm trying. Quinn is a kind of a more quiet guy from what I can see. Um,
Quinnen? Oh no, he's real. He's loud. I don't think he's a leader. I don't. No disrespect to him. I think there's a difference between being a very loud and
he's like an energy guy.
high care. Exactly. He's an energy guy. He's not someone that is like gonna be in the huddle and he's gonna be super, disciplinary. He's gonna be like, get your ass in gear. You got to be what the hell were you doing on that play or whatever. He's not
Yeah,
gonna get up in your face and be that type of person.
yeah,
Um, yeah, you're right on that end. They do have a lot of they have a ton of characters in that locker room. Sauce Gardner and Quinnen, Garrett Wilson, these guys are real loud in my opinion, but there's no one that's going to sit there and on the field because it's different for someone on because Aaron Glenn's going to do that. He's not wearing pads though. He can't be out there in the huddle saying that type of stuff.
yeah.
So,
I mean, like the Lions had those type of guys, the Hutchinson on the
exactly.
field, Alon,
Hutchinson is the exact.
Anzalone.
That's what they.
Um,
Yeah, that's what they had.
so
They had
they
that type of guy.
exactly. So they need maybe low key. Now I'm thinking of Max Crosby could potentially be a guy that I'd look at to try
I
to
kind
bring
of
in.
like that.
I
Yeah.
just thought of that, but that could be something that could really help them out in terms
That's
of
actually like the
culture and
perfect. I don't know that there's a better scenario than for a specific team to bring in that type of. Obviously, every team wants that type of player, but who needs that type of player, there's not many teams that need that more than the Jets. They need those types of
Exactly.
players right now. And I really hate that Tyron Smith didn't work out for them and the injuries. Well, I love and hate it. As a Cowboys fan, I'm just like, yeah, suck it, Jets. He's our guy. He's a Cowboy for life. I don't care.
Same thing
But
with
it
Rodgers.
kind of just territorial. But
Yeah.
but Tyron could have been that guy. I think the injuries, that poor dude, his body just doesn't hold up throughout the season because every single time that he's on the field, even his last year in Dallas, he played fantastic when he was healthy. And even at what I think he was 35 years old, and he was playing at an insanely high level at that age. And but he could have been that type of guy for them. They're just missing that. And that's it. This is such an interesting team because they need a quarterback now. Rogers has got to go. I just can't because one of the reasons, like with McCarthy, I think McCarthy's kind of someone that's such an easygoing guy. I think McCarthy's kind of a chameleon in that sense, whereas someone like Sala, he's a little bit more territorial, right? So I think Sala wants it his way; it's going to be done his way. Uh, and I think Glenn is going to be that exact same way. And like I said, Glenn, from what I've seen, Glenn's more vocal than Sala. So I think Glenn's going to be like, here's what I want, and I want it now. And this is how it's going to be done. And Rogers is not going to be someone that goes for that unless he has some total character shift. But this is not one of those people that just switches how they view the game, or switches how they go about their business. But I I really would love this to be a team that looks at, once they bring in the uh, right guy, it needs to be someone that has experience, has good character, has good leadership skills, and there's a couple of those guys in this class. I just don't think that the positioning is going to be in the draft. I don't think the position is going to be aligned perfectly because if they were able to go get a Cam Ward, I think that would be so perfect. You get the Cam Ward is kind of the prototype of Aaron Rodgers, and in a obviously, you can't. I'm not making the Hall of Fame connection. I'm saying in terms of prototype. Uh, he's going to go out there. He's going to run around and do some fancy things in the pocket. He's going to sidearm it. He's going to be really nonchalant about how he does things, but he has a different character type of moxie about him than Aaron Rodgers, and I think he would be really compatible in this type of team. That's never going to happen though. But if I'm the Jets, I might sit here and consider like, could I trade up? Do I think the first? Do I think the Titans or the Browns are going to draft a quarterback? Second, um, am I interested in negotiating with the Giants at 3 to go get this player? So uh, but I think he could be one of those home run types of guys because they're not a team that needs talent. They're a team that needs depth and they need up front in the trenches. They need the groundwork, the kind of um, foundation to be set. But I think that's something that they can do within 2 years. I think they can really change up that foundation, and specifically the offensive line needs work. But man, I would love a Cam Ward connection because Cam's also he's 23. He's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in this class. So okay, so let's move on to Pete Carroll though. Man, we're really diving deep on these guys. It's already been
Yeah.
40 minutes. How the heck
Yeah.
did that this flew by? But
That's what we do, I
uh
guess.
yes, sir. Pete Carroll to the Raiders. This was one that I did not see coming. I don't think many people saw coming. But I really like this fit. I think that when you're working in the AFC West, you need you need someone that is not just kind of out there uh just you need someone that's going to be super hands-on, super physical, super knowledgeable, experience, has a track record of a Super Bowl and playoff success, other Super Bowl that maybe they lost, but they were there, uh, and you lost to Brady. But Pete Carroll knows what he's doing. He's done it at all levels, uh, and he's done it at a high level. Um, I think you bring him in here, you get the right quarterback to pair with him. You add a he is perfect for what the Raiders want. The Raiders are a team that plays they want to play nasty football. They want to be physical, they want to be uh right on the ground of playing dirty football, but playing, at a just flat out physical. They want to play football. And I think Pete Carroll can do that for you, and you need that in a division that you're playing against Brady, and you're playing against now Harbaugh and uh, Sean Payton. You need the experience, you need the physicality, you need to be able to figure out how to overcome the. That's the that's the hardest division to win in football. So, um, yeah. So I like this. I like this hiring for them. Go get you a quarterback that fits. What you're trying to do here.
Yeah, I think it's the right move for sure. It'll be interesting to see how things change with this team. I mean, roster-wise, they're not really good at all either, So,
Yeah.
um, I don't like we haven't seen Pete Carroll be part of a rebuild in a very long time. He was able, the Seahawks were like mediocre when he first took over, and he kind of built them back up. Helps to have the Legion of Boom with that. Helps out Russell Wilson with that. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in this, how he does in this new environment. Um, he's got to figure out who he's going to hire for his offensive and defensive coordinators too. I don't think he's done that. Trying to think who he could bring in. No one's coming to mind off the top of my head that he has like connections with, but um, if he brings in the right staff, I think he has a really good chance of kind of setting that tone early on, bring the Raiders back up into um, the high single digit numbers in the first year, 7, 8 wins, and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a long process for the Raiders, even though they brought in an experienced head coach. This is not something that I think is going to be fixed in a season.
Yeah, and
Um,
well, and six of your games, especially now with the uprising of the Broncos, six of your games every single season. I mean, until you're a playoff caliber team, you're probably not going to be favored against. You're
yeah,
never going to be favored against the Chiefs. You're never going to be favored against the Broncos, at least for the next year or two, and you're not going to be favored against the Chargers for the next two. You have probably in those six games, you win one or two of them.
yeah,
So every year until you are a playoff caliber team, and you're playing your schedules in the AFC, you are up like you're climbing a very steep hill right now.
yeah. And I'm looking at the like just Raiders like history on Pro Football Reference. And I don't think they've like had a head coach for more than 4 years at a time since whoever the Shell guy, I don't know who Shell is, since Art Shell, he's in the Hall of Fame. I probably should know who he is, but um, like Art Shell was there from 98 to or 89 to 94, I mean. Got fired after 94, and then 2 years of a guy, 1 year of a guy, and then they brought in Gruden and he came in for four. And
Sheesh.
then 2 years of Callahan, 2 years of Turner. They brought Shell back for 1 year randomly, went 2-14, and then oh,
Sheesh.
he's a Hall of Famer as a player. Okay,
And
and
what
then
is
Lane
he?
Kiffin came in for 2 years, uh,
Let's see.
and then Cable Jackson was there for a year. Dennis Allen was there for 2 years, 2+ years, and got fired. Del Rio was there for three. Gruden came back for three, got fired in his fourth. And then McDaniels was there for a year and a half, and then Pierce was here for only a year.
Yikes.
So, the team just needs stability. I think some of this can be put on Mark Davis as well, um, and just how he's led the franchise since he took over. Um, because I mean, this is bad, bro. Since John Madden, they haven't had any. I guess they won
Yeah.
two Super
Well,
Bowls after
Gruden.
Madden, but
The only that's man. I'm looking at the same list you are. I'm just like because every team has their coaches that's like, man, remember the good old days. The, John Madden's like it for them. But
yeah,
Gruden, I mean,
Tom
Gruden came
Flores
in
was
and had
after him.
some success, but but oh yeah, and Tom Flores. But like in recent history, in literally the 21st century, they haven't had a
It's
guy.
been bad. Yeah,
Like they haven't had a guy that's going to go out there and at the very least, like and I guess I could say the same for Dallas, but at the very least for Dallas, like you could bring up some of these coaches and be like, oh yeah, we had a spew of years where, like with McCarthy, we had 3 straight years where we went 12-5. The Raiders can't say that. They're just all of these coaches. You go down the list, one, two, one. So one of these guys has a, oh my gosh, one of these coaches has a winning record as a head coach, and that was Del Rio. He was 25 and 23, and that was because you had the one that was during the one year
the
where they
one
went
big
12 and
year.
4 with Derek Carr and all
MVP
everyone's
Derek Carr. Yeah,
excited. Yeah, and Derek Carr just cooked. I think that was 2016, and
yeah.
then
Election year
after
Derek
that,
Carr.
well, actually, there's two coaches with a winning record. Rich Bisaccia, that's crazy, and they just let him go. I mean, they kind of had it. He was perfect for. He was perfect.
It was he was the guy to at least
Yeah,
bridge them to where they want to be, but they didn't
yeah,
keep him for
exactly. He
whatever
was.
reason.
He needed to stay around for 2 years. He in that exact scenario. He was kind of the right guy for him.
Yeah, and the only problem with Pete Carroll, I feel like, is just his age for me. Like
Yeah,
he's old. He's probably like
yeah,
the most healthy 70-year-old I've ever seen, but he's still 70 plus. So
yeah,
that's probably the only downside I see from it. Um, but it'll be interesting. Like there's like now rumors that Russell Wilson will somehow end up there. I'm not sure if that'll happen, but I mean, it'll be
yeah,
fun, I guess.
yeah. I think they need a
But
younger guy.
yeah,
He could bridge if he went in for one, signed a 1 year and was a bridge guy. Dude, this team has had a bridge quarterback for so long, man.
yeah,
I
about
mean, it's been
Minshew,
since Derek
O'Connell.
Carr, dude. I mean, even Derek
Yeah,
Carr, in my eyes, he was a second round pick. Like he had one good year, and it was kind of like he's kind of a bridge quarterback. Like he's just a dude there
yeah,
that's gonna go and when you at that point in time, he looked like someone who's gonna give you a winning record, but nothing more. Like kind of a
not even.
Kirk Cousins at that time.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, this kind of sucks for them. Uh, okay, let's move on to who do we want to talk about next? So, okay, so the Jags brought in Liam Cohen. He was the OC for the Bucks. This was one of the most interesting situations because the day before he signed with or decided he was going to go to the Jags, they already wrote up a contract for him to get extended in Tampa. He agreed to it. He just hadn't signed it yet. And the next day, he just goes MIA, and all of a sudden, there's reports that he's being interviewed by the Jags, and he wants to go to the Jags. Um, and then it ends up happening. So he's the Jags head coach now. Um, worth mentioning, didn't the Jags do like a last second GM change?
yeah. They fired Balky, and then I
Yeah,
think Cohen, like that. I think that might have been the reason why that he.
exactly. So they fired Balky, and who is it that they brought in? I can't remember.
Did they bring someone? I don't even know if they brought someone in.
Yeah, they brought someone in,
I missed that too.
right? Am I? Nope. They're
No,
yeah. No. Yeah, they're still working on it, I guess. Never
yeah.
mind. So he just didn't want to work with Balky, I guess. But which is reasonable. Um,
I think
so
that was like one of the narratives because like a
yeah,
lot of candidates like didn't want to
yeah,
work with Trent Baalke, and that's why it was kind of people were staying with. That's the reason why Cohen was about to sign back with Tampa. And I guess Shad Khan like finally was like, okay, we need to change something, and finally
yeah.
said, Baalke, you're out of here. And that's why Cohen was like, all right, I'll give this a shot.
Well, and it's especially reasonable for him because he's in a proven scenario. These are where coaches live and die. He's about to get promoted to head coach. He's getting offer, he's getting interviews and whatnot. But if you go to the Jags and you just suck, then all of a sudden you're just spiraled into this Josh McDaniels type of range where it's just like you're
Yeah,
not good enough, but you're not bad enough, but it just sucks.
yeah,
So he's in a scenario where it would have been like, okay, if I don't think I'm going to succeed with this team, yeah, I'm going back. I'll go back to the Bucks, and it's safe. It was a safe scenario for him. And But if you go to the Jags and you end up having a bad team around you, but you still have he would have been in a pressure scenario where I have a bad team, I have a bad GM, and I have a quarterback that is supposed to be the guy. Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be a Josh Allen caliber player. That's what he was drafted to be. And he wasn't just some first overall pick like Kyler Murray, or Baker Mayfield, and no, those are great quarterbacks, but he was a first overall pick to the magnitude of Caleb Williams. He was supposed to be a guy that comes in, becomes a top-notch figure in the NFL. So going and coaching that type of guy, and Trevor Lawrence, there's a lot of pressure there, especially now that it's kind of do or die. Trevor Lawrence needs to be, what everything that he was drafted to be. So, now that the GM's gone, you can hope for a team that is going to end up having a better, outlook in terms of personnel. So I like this fit for Cohen. I think that he can have some success there in a very difficult uh, AFC conference. So
Yeah, I would like to say that Mayfield has gotten his offensive coordinator hired as a head coach in like the past 2 seasons,
yeah,
back to back,
it's true.
which is pretty interesting. So, but yeah, I mean, Cohen, I think is an interesting hire because he's kind of just bounced around a lot. Because I remember I saw his tweet and it was like his main NFL experience is with the Rams under McVay, and then he went to Kentucky for a year after a few years of the Rams. He spent 1 year in Kentucky, I think, as the OC, and then went back to the Rams to be the OC. And after that 1 year with the Rams, that was that one really bad year they had. And
Oh,
then he
he
went
was
back
Will
to
Levis's
Kentucky.
OC, wasn't he?
Uh-huh.
That's
He was,
right. Okay, I remember that. Yeah, he was, and then he left, and they sucked
yeah, let
the
me
past
pull
two
this up real quick.
years. Well,
Uh,
so because if I'm not mistaken, he was Will Levis's OC the first year. He comes up to Tampa. Second year of Will Levis's tenure, Will wasn't that great, and then, or of his, I'm sorry, the second year of Will Levis's starting experience, he wasn't that great, and then they get a new OC, or then this year they had the one Georgia kid, and the past 2 years they've kind of sucked
Vandegrift, yeah.
offensively. Yeah, Vandegrift,
Yeah.
who's
So
retired
he,
now.
so 18 through 20, 2018 through 2020, he was with the Rams as an assistant offensive coach. 2021, he went to Kentucky to be the offensive coordinator. And in 2022, he came back to the Rams to be the offensive coordinator. 2023, he went back to Kentucky to be the offensive coordinator. And then this past season, he went to Tampa to be the offensive coordinator. And now next year, he's going to go to Tampa or to Jacksonville to be the head coach. So it's a very interesting kind of timeline roadmap for him. And I, like he has the, I guess, kind of a quarterback guru aspect to him in some sense. Um, but the 1 year he was the Rams OC was the really bad um, Rams year. And I'm trying to see because I mean I guess Stafford got hurt. They had Baker come in for a little bit. That was that crazy game against
That's right. Yeah,
the
where he
the
had the game-winning
Raiders.
drive, Baker did.
Yeah, came, got signed on Tuesday, started on Thursday.
Yeah.
That thing. So I mean I think this is a step up from Peterson for sure. I think it's so I Doug Peterson's so weird to me also. That guy won a Super Bowl and then has been absolutely terrible since, and I don't really understand why.
Me
But
neither. Yeah.
that's another thing. But I mean, Cohen is getting his hands on an offense that has a lot of potential once again.
You get the superstar
Lawrence,
receiver too,
exactly.
Ryan
Lawrence has
Lawrence.
been there's there's a potential that still has been unlocked. I feel like with Lawrence, ETN had a down year. Hopefully, he can get back. That receiver core looks solid. You know, Brian Thomas, like you said, is on his way to be a number one guy. Um, and then Christian Kirk is still solid.
Gabe
Evan
Davis
Ingram,
too.
Gabe Davis is there. I don't think he really did much this past season, but
Yeah, he
he's
didn't.
Evan Ingram. I think was their number two target, and he was really good this past year, at least from a fantasy aspect. I remember. Um, so I think once again, this is kind of like Ben Johnson with how the offense is kind of set up to be good. It's just about setting up the scheme properly. Um, the one question mark with Cohen for me is just the culture setting. I honestly have no idea how he is as a person. I haven't seen him speak ever, and all that. So that'll be something to watch out for sure. Um, yeah, this is. I mean, he's one of the younger. He's 39. He just turned 39 a month ago or so. Um, so this is what that's going to be interesting for sure to just kind of watch how he progresses throughout the season. Um, I could see it being a really rough start to the season, honestly. Just because it's a new coach. This guy honestly doesn't have the most amount of experience. He was very new to the whole thing. So I think this could be one that could go anywhere, honestly. I think it's going to be good for the offense. I hope it's good for the offense, you know. There's potential there for sure. But I'm not sure if the culture is going to be there. And I think that's going to be the one thing everyone's going to be waiting
That's
on
true.
for just not for the offense, but the whole roster. Um, but yeah,
All right. Let's quickly breeze by. So Vrabel, I mean, well, I'll just state this and we can just move on. But Vrabel goes to the Patriots. We've already discussed the Vrabel move. We love the move. I think all three of us, you, me, and Pierce, voiced that we love the move. Perfect fit. It made sense right from the beginning. It was almost one that you could just kind of like pencil in. It was like I don't even need to wait. Just Vrabel's going to go to the Patriots. I know this is going to happen.
yep.
So yeah, the great hire. Dare I say A+ type of hire. I love it. Probably, I mean, him, Ben Johnson, and Pete Carroll are all, in my opinion, A+ type of hires. Probably Glenn too. I'd say Glenn is A- territory. So the Saints. Let's move on to the Saints really quick. Just a brief conversation. Saints. They need a head coach. I'll put you on the spot, Ayush. Who do you think they might land?
There's a lot of options, you know. You mentioned McCarthy in the at the beginning
Yeah,
of this thing, and I think that is for sure a candidate. But I feel like there's got to be a reason why they're waiting so long. And I think it might be because they're trying to go for someone on a team
like
that's
Brady.
still playing right now. Yeah, and I think it could be Joe Brady, Joe Brady, Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio. I think are the three
I didn't think
big
about
ones
Kellen. Yeah,
that are going for. Because I think both Spagnuolo and Nagy are coming back to Kansas City, and I think I think Kingsbury should stay a couple years in Washington before he goes to. He's going to get a head coaching gig at some point. I think he should stay for a little bit. So that's why I'm keeping him out of this conversation right now. But I think it's going to be Brady, Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, and I'm leaning towards Joe Brady, just because it fits that mold of being that hot upstart coordinator. That's been really. I mean, he was the coordinator at LSU during the Burrow season in 2019. Um, and then he's really done really nice things for the Bills, even when people thought it might be a down year with the lack of weapons that Josh Allen would have. The offense has been really good, and Josh Allen has been really good MVP type season. Um, so I think they might be looking for him to kind of restart this offense. It'll be tough with Derek Carr there, but I think, I mean, Joe Brady is a guy with championship experience at the college level. He's a guy that has the offensive mind for sure. I know he was in Carolina for a bit, right? Before he went to, and that was, but Carolina's just bad, so that's why he did bad in Carolina.
yeah.
Yeah,
And he was, I mean, he was at LSU. He was at LSU
yeah,
for 9 years.
LSU. And so, oh, I'm looking at this now. He was actually an offensive assistant for the Saints in 2017 and 18 before he went to LSU. So that is
Oh yeah,
something. Um, but yeah, so I think,
that makes a lot of sense. Then
yeah,
that's interesting.
so I think they could lead. I mean, he's a really young guy. I think he's
35.
35. So I mean, the past Carolina, I'm not counting those years at all in terms of his rank. He was 21st and 30th in yards for offense, but in the 2 years of Buffalo, he was fourth and 10th, and he was second in the league in points this year. So. Um, the Saints will be a little bit of a rebuild for them, you know. They're going to need to find a quarterback at some point. They have weapons. Olave is an interesting topic because his head is gone, but
Yeah.
um, they have weapons. Rashid Shaheed is really good. Kamara is still doing his thing.
Yeah, he's old though,
Defense,
so they're going to be. I,
yeah,
I would assume that. Well, I mean, I was going to say maybe they start looking at a running back in this draft, but they drafted the one kid from TCU,
Kendra Miller.
Kendre Miller. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's interesting too.
I don't know. I don't know how. I haven't seen enough from him in the NFL to judge if
Yeah,
he's good or not, but I would imagine at this point that they don't have the trust in him
yeah.
yet to put him there. But I had him mock Michael Williams. That's who I mocked them to.
Uh,
He's
but
a
yeah, so,
big defensive end.
Fangio I think would be interesting because he might just be like a Spagnuolo type of guy where he's not good as a head coach, but he's just really good as a defensive coordinator. Because he was terrible. Oh, I thought he had coached somewhere else before Denver, but he didn't. But obviously Denver was terrible. Um, and then he's been great as a DC literally everywhere else. So maybe he gets a shot. But now that I saw that Joe Brady was on the Saints at one point, he was in Louisiana during the
Yeah.
championship season. I really feel like this could go for Joe Brady's way. And so
Man. I'm gonna be
it
really
could,
upset if that happens, man. I After Ben Johnson went, I was like full on. I want Joe. I knew it was never gonna happen, but I wanted Joe Brady so bad, and I was a part of me was a little hopeful that they were trying to go get him. Dallas was when they were waiting, and for the same reason that we think Saints are waiting. I was hoping that Dallas was, but man,
yeah.
can't
But
ever get
yeah,
over that as a Cowboys fan.
I mean, like I said with a couple of these guys, the one thing that I haven't seen personally from them is like the culture stuff.
Yeah,
Um, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. I want to, I just thought of this, but I want to see like the success rate because there's like there's the coaches that are on the field, and then there's coaches that are in the box, right? Like the coordinators or whatever. I want to see like if there's a correlation between that or not. Someone's probably thought of this before, but
maybe
surely, because I'm trying to just think of people off the top of my head.
Dan Quinn.
Because
Dan
yeah,
Quinn
Dan Quinn
was
was a
a
box guy.
box guy, yeah,
Ben
before
Johnson,
becoming a head coach.
Ben Johnson was a sideline guy. Glenn's a sideline guy. Is Shot a sideline guy? I don't even know. I don't see him on TV ever.
No, he's on the side. He's on the sideline. I think they just don't ever show. I will mention really quick. Sorry, this is a little bit of a derailment of the train of thought, but it really surprised me how Schottenheimer actually got any traction here because you would never expect a Dallas Cowboys offensive coordinator to literally like Schottenheimer gets no media publicity.
Yeah,
He's never talked about on broadcasts. It shocked me that he was even up for contention for this role. So I figured, if anything, if one of our coordinators was going to actually get a head coach role in Dallas, I figured it'd be Zimmer. But I could never believe that Schottenheimer actually got so much traction here. But what do I know?
yeah, indeed. Cohen was a sideline guy. Vrabel's a sideline guy. Carroll's a sideline guy, I would assume. Um,
Yeah,
so I think that'll be interesting. Joe Brady's a box guy. I know that. Um, trying to think. Kellen Moore is a sideline
okay.
guy. Fangio's a box guy, I think, if I'm not
Yeah, he
mistaken.
is. Yep.
Um, so yeah, I don't know.
I
I
don't
just
get
thought
the
of that.
lore. I don't know. I see what you're saying. I don't get the like interest though for them to be in the box. I don't get it. I feel like you're a coach. Be down on the field with everyone
I
else.
feel
I
like
mean,
it's
maybe
just
you
like
can see
vantage point
you
or
can
something.
see well maybe particularly as a defensive guy you could be up there because you're able to see uh you're able to see the routes better, you're able to kind of scheme better. Oh, should I run cover 3, should I run cover 4 more consistently? But offensively, I feel like it's a little bit less of an advantage. I think defensive because as an evaluator, the true guys I'm really looking at whenever I'm scouting are the guys that I'm like, man, I really, really wish I was able to scrape up 22 film on certain players. It's always the corners, safeties, and receivers are a little bit easier to do without all 22 if I'm unable to get my hands on it. But corners and safeties are always, especially safeties, are so hard to be able to gauge unless I have a certain vantage point, which is all 22.
That makes
Um,
sense.
so I think that there's, as a defensive coach, I can see a little bit more, but offensively, I think you should be down there, on the field. But um, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, so let's move on though. We're over the hour mark, so we're at an hour and 5 minutes somehow. I don't know how that happened, but we're gonna make our picks really quick. It should be pretty easy because there's two games to pick from. So let's try and fly through these really quick. So Commanders at the Eagles. I'll let you start, and then Pierce isn't here, but he did send us his picks. So we'll voice those as well, so we can keep a track record. Um, but actually, oh man, I should have tallied this up beforehand. How did we do last week? I have it written down somewhere here, but I'll throw these
All
out
right.
there before we start to
I went for the
talk.
upset, so I don't think I got.
Hang on. So
This is
So
because
I
I
went
remember.
5-1. You went 3-3. Pierce went 1-5 on the first week.
Oh
So
yeah,
okay. So one second. I'll write this out.
because I chose the Ravens, they lost. I chose the Rams, they lost.
None of us got the Commanders game right. You
Yeah,
picked the Rams,
they
and
lost.
I was the only one to pick the
That is
Bills. So I cooked again, dude. I cooked. Jeez, I
that
went
was.
three. So I went 3-1.
Uh huh.
You went 1-3. Pierce went
That
two and
makes
two
sense.
last week. So that makes me 8-2. That makes you 4-4. That makes
I'm
Pierce 3-7. So I think I could get them all wrong from here on. If you went 3-0 and I went 0-3 for the last three games of the season, I win. So
whatever, bro.
yes, sir. All right. Anyways, so yeah, I'm 8-2. Uh, Ayush 4-4. Pierce 3-7. But I'll let you go first for the Commanders at Eagles game. What do you got?
Uh, you know, the Commanders have been amazing offensively, especially. I mean, but I don't know if their defense can handle what the Eagles are doing. I think because the Commanders, I think, are like a bottom three run defense. I might have talked to them about this before. I might have said this
Yeah.
against the Lions too,
I
and it
don't
didn't
think they're
work out. But
bottom three, but they're
in yards, I think
they're
for
like
rush
bottom
defense,
10. Are they Oh yeah, no,
which
they are. You're right. You're right. Never mind. Yeah, we talked about that before. I just kind of I didn't think it was as bad, but I think you're right.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, go
and
ahead.
I mean Eagles are gonna use Saquon as much as they can this game. So it's
Yeah.
just I think it's a recipe for disaster on the defensive end for the Commanders. And I think the Eagles defense is, I mean, the one time they played fully healthy against each other, or basically healthy against each other, the Eagles won. The one game the Commanders won, it was Kenny Pickett at quarterback, and I think a couple defensive guys that were missing, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just saying that off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. But and that was, I think, only a 3-point win by the Commanders there, and that was a high scoring game on both sides with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. So um, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be one possession, but I think the Eagles are going to pull it out. Um, I don't think the Commanders are just. I mean, we've said this I think every week, but I don't think the Commanders are quite there yet in terms of experience to really beat the Eagles at this point in the conference championship. Um, I mean, they're playing with house money, like everyone's been saying. That this season's already a success for them, so they're going to come out strong. I know Jaden Daniels is going to play well. Um, the wide receiver is going to play well. Brian Robinson's going to try to do his thing, but in the end, I think um, that defense is just too good. That run offense is just too good. I talked about it last week, but I'm still waiting to see that pass offense from the Eagles throughout this entire playoffs. It just hasn't
Yeah.
been there. Um, I mean, they haven't really needed it the entire time. I guess they might not need it this week, but it is something that they're going to have to make sure that they're prepared for if they make it past this week
Yeah.
and go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to say it's going to be a one possession game, but Eagles are going to pull it off and make it to the Super Bowl for the
All
second
right.
time in 4 years.
Pierce went against the grain here. He says Commanders by one. Man, every fiber of my body wants to say the Commanders win this. I really want that to happen, but
Yeah,
I don't think it's
would
going
be
to
fun.
happen. I really don't think it's going to happen, man. I think first half of the game, it'll be a game. Uh, Second half, I think it's going to fall apart on them a little bit. I think ultimately we're going to look at like a ooh, probably like a 10-14 type of ending, point difference,
Oh,
with Philly
okay.
coming on top. Honestly, man, I really want Jaden to do this, man. Really want Jaden to pull this off. And there's a ton of former Cowboys on that team. I mean, they're my division rivals, sure, but which division rival I'm going to pick here? Obviously, not the Eagles. So, uh,
Yeah,
Commanders is a lot more of a respected type of rivalry. Eagles, Cowboys, each player on each team just hates the other team. Commanders, it's different. So I really would love them to win this, but I've got Philly by probably 2 scores once it's all said and done. Okay, Bills, Chiefs. Bills at Chiefs. What do you got, Ayush?
gonna be another close one, obviously. Man, I can't say the Chiefs, bro. Like I feel like it's leaning their way, just because of the Chiefs. But I'm gonna take the Bills. I don't care. Um, they beat them once before. I think I said this in our group chat, but I was like, at the if the Bills get to the conference finals or the conference championship, they're gonna lose to the Chiefs. Or if the Ravens do, I think they'll beat the Chiefs. Just because, what am I trying to say? Just because the Bills already beat them once this season, and there's already that narrative of Josh Allen owns Mahomes in the regular season, but I think Mahomes is undefeated against Josh Allen in the postseason. Um, and Josh Allen only has that one win, and so the Chiefs are going to come out even stronger, knowing that they're coming off that loss. They're going to try to get their get back. But I feel like it would be the roles would be the reverse if it was the Ravens in the conference championship. They lost by a toe week one of the season. Um, and they want to get their get back against the Chiefs, and I feel like they would have done that if they got to the freaking conference championship, but they didn't because they were mid. But anyway, it'll be interesting. I think Chiefs or Bills will pull. I'm going to say the Bills will pull it off. I don't know if the Bills will pull it off, but I can't choose the Chiefs. I do not want them to get the three-peat. Um, I don't, bro. I've been seeing like on Twitter. I don't know if I'm seeing like Jets fans or something a lot on Twitter, but like, oh, I would rather have Mahomes get the three-peat than Josh Allen to get one ring ever in his career. I'm like, that's a crazy statement. Like, I don't. Maybe I'm like being protective of like Aaron Rodgers' legacy, which is already kind of tarnished. But like, I can't let Mahomes get 4 rings when
Yeah,
Rodgers got one ring in like 20, 25 years, basically. So I don't want the Chiefs. Um, I, we've experienced too many firsts in sporting history in our lifetime. I feel like at this point,
yeah,
like the first 16 seed upset the 1 seed in March Madness. That happened like twice in our lifetime. It
yeah,
hasn't happened ever before that. Um, I don't not like the first time a team won the Super Bowl in their home stadium,
yeah. Rams.
that type of thing. There's so many firsts that happened in our lifetime in the 21st century. We can leave the three-peat until after we're dead.
Yeah,
Like just let it go for a
that's
little bit.
valid.
Give us a
That's
break.
valid. Um,
So that's my analysis of this game. And just please know is my analysis. So I'm gonna take the Bills. It's gonna be close for sure. It's gonna come down to Josh Allen. Is he gonna be clean with the ball? Because Mahomes is because the first game, who did okay, with Chiefs had the bye week one or first week of the playoffs. There was some double magic against the Texans, I feel like, because Fairbairn missed like what 3 kicks.
yeah,
The the first I think the first field goal he missed was by like an entire field goal length, which was
mhm,
insane to me. I think that was maybe because of a field goal or of a wind gust. But I mean, there's obviously some magic going on. So and Stroud has the power of Christ behind him, and it wasn't enough to beat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like I don't know what
yeah,
what
dude.
what there is at this point. So um, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be maybe the power of Haley Steinfeld at this point, if that's enough to beat the Chiefs. But that's what I'm banking on right now.
Bro, we need Haley Steinfeld and Taylor Swift
Just pull
in the
up.
same press box, dude.
That'd be
We
great.
need it.
A fight's gonna start, bro.
Yeah, dude, seriously. That would dude, come on. Think about the cinema that we would get. Like, they just like yeah, it's Taylor Swift's talking trash because of a Travis Kelce touchdown, and freaking Haley Steinfeld just freaking right hooks her, just
With the
boom,
Hawkeye training, the
gone.
Hawkeye
Yeah,
show training.
seriously, she learned all this in Marvel and Hawkeye, dude.
Uh,
She knows how to engage in combat, man.
uh,
So,
yeah,
bro, but I mean, yeah, I really I really want the Bills to win this, and I mean, a lot of people really just have a bone to pick with the Chiefs. I'm someone that's a little bit more mellow towards it. I don't care for them. I don't, I'm not necessarily voting, rooting against them in this playoffs. Obviously, I don't want them to get to it would be their fifth Super Bowl, fourth under Mahomes, but because I don't want them to tie Dallas with five. But uh and worth noting Bills fans are awesome. People they get a bad rap sometimes, but I went to a game at Orchard Park 2 years ago. It was a game that they blew the crap out of Dallas. It was like 30 point differential. Dak was helpless, and everyone was like, okay, when's Dak gonna throw his late, it's already a blowout, so Dak's got to throw a pick to end the game just for, good measure, and naturally he threw his last minute pick and all that, and that sucked. But dude, Bills fans were I had Bills fans telling me, like, I was walking up the freaking stands to leave because it was like 30 seconds left in the game. We're like, okay, let's beat the traffic. I was walking up the stands, and Bills fans are sitting there like, "Hey, good game, bro. It's okay. I know y'all are better." They're freaking dapping me up, and I'm
yeah.
like, bro, what? Y'all just blew us out. Like, y'all should be talking so much trash right now. That's how it is in any other stadium. But they were so nice, so friendly, and I think they're just super passionate, and they deserve this. They've never won a Super Bowl before. This is a team that, in my opinion, has always been a good sport. They've always, they've had their moments in the media, just like any other team, but for some reason, and I know the reason is because they're a good football team. Sometimes they get bad rap media wise, but I would really love for them to win this, but I hate to play the villain. I just don't think it's going to happen. And I really want them to get over the hump, dude. I talked about it last week, and it's similar for the Ravens, not quite as magnified for them, but dude, the Chiefs are bullies, man. They are such bullies,
Exactly, bro.
especially to the Bills, and it just sucks for them. But uh, and I will note, dude, if the Bills make it to the Super Bowl, it's gonna be kind of funny to see Stephon every year. The Stephon Diggs standing outside watching the
Yeah,
AFC,
for uh,
AFC title, whatever award being given out, and then the one year he leaves, the first year he's gone, they
they
make it
win.
to the Super Bowl. I would love
Oh
that,
my
but
goodness.
and I'm not that I hate that Stephon Diggs or something, but it would just be kind of ironic.
I want to go back to the first that I was talking about because I looked it up on ChatGPT real quick.
Yeah.
I was like, so like we can't have the first three-peat in NFL history because we already had the 16 seed being the one seed, right? In March Madness. The most regular season wins in NBA history with the 73 win Warriors. Um, there's like soccer ones on here that are the first ever Women's World Cup hat trick. If you want to talk about Carly Lloyd, that was a crazy. I watched that game. Carly Lloyd in that game was actually absolutely insane.
Hmm.
No one really cares about that, but it's okay. Um, First overtime in a Super Bowl with the Patriots Falcons Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
that's true.
Um, Tennis, first tennis player in history to win all four major tournaments and the Paralympic gold medal. The wheelchair guy. Uh, Serena Williams became the first to hold all four Grand Slam titles. Uh, Golf, Tiger Woods became the first golfer to win all four major championships consecutively. Olympics first perfect 10 in gymnastics since the code changes. Nastia Liukin. Michael Phelps set a record for most gold medals won.
Man.
Baseball first World Series for the Cubs in 108 years. Like
Oh
literally
yeah.
no one has ever seen the Cubs win basically. Um, Albert Pujols became the first to hit 700 career home runs since Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds was on roids, so Pujols is more legit, I guess. Uh, first NHL team to win the Stanley Cup after being down 3-0 in a series. Um, um, let's see. First unanimous NBA MVP, Steph Curry. Uh, first first player to get 800 career goals in soccer, Ronaldo. Um, some of these are like mid. Um, Usain Bolt became the first world record with the 9.58 World Cup, or not World Cup, uh, in the 100 meter. Sidney McLaughlin broke records. Uh, there's so many. Like, why do we need
Yeah.
another one?
We've been blessed with
We-
sports. We
exactly.
some
Like,
people
just
sometimes people complain about oh, it's been a boring season. No, no, it's not. That like it never is. There's always something interesting to factor in. Honestly, like thinking about it, like maybe one of the most mellow NFL seasons I can remember is probably like 2020. But then you factor in all the COVID stuff, and it's just like, dude, there's never anything by the book. I mean, I guess the most by the book
yeah,
that it can get is two certain dynasties. Well, I guess three if you think about all of sports: Warriors dynasty, like late 2010s, uh, Patriots with Brady, and then now the one we're seeing with the Chiefs. But otherwise, the in between stuff, dude, there's always something interesting to watch and see. So I hate
yeah,
when people are complaining about the quality of what we're watching because there's always something interesting. Athletes are as good as ever. And if you look at, you can, so, I mean, I was looking at a graph the other day, like, and this is just specifically NFL, but it's like, it was showing like the height, weight, geez, sizes of certain players or of players from a certain position on average. It like swooped up, dude. The graph was like significantly different. Yeah, like offensive tackles back in the 70s were 270 pounds. Now they're a 320-pound tackle in the NFL now is like very
insane.
average. It's very average. Quarterbacks are now 250 pounds. Josh Allen's out there. He's 250 pounds. Derrick Henry's 250 pounds. And then 40 times compared to then and now. Now your number one receiver is running a 4.3. Back then, your number one receiver is running like a 5 flat, dude. Like they're slow. Like I'm
Yeah,
faster than that, and it's
you can
totally
run under a
different.
540.
What?
You can run under a 40 under a five.
Yeah, dude. I'm sure I could. I bet I would say I could run like a 4.7 right now.
Dang,
Yeah, you
I
could
think in
probably
my
run the
prime.
same. I'm not that fast though. That's
I'm
not
I haven't ran in a while, but
if you really compare it, a lot of it has to do with stride lengths, but like I height weight wise, and I'm not like I'm fairly in shape. I'm not gonna go out there and freaking run 10 laps around my house right now. I would be huffing and puffing. Sometimes I'm huffing and puffing after going up and down the stairs, but
yeah,
if you're talking pure 40 and not a long-term endurance type of sprint, then
that's
I could
true.
probably run like I'll definitely run below 5. I would say
I don't know.
4.75 is my that's my
That'll
top.
be that'll be because those are like times that are like NFL quarterbacks are running. 4.7s, four
Yeah,
sixes.
but they're also like 50. Some of them are like 50 pounds heavier than me.
That's true.
Like Mahomes when he ran, he was like 225. I mean, I'm like 180, like 190 right now.
That's true.
So and uh I have decently sized legs, so I could probably be able to get enough like explosion through my steps to be able to
Uh,
get through. My acceleration, my 10-yard split is not going to look good, but I think once I hit into gear, I'll be good.
that's it. That's all they care about nowadays, bro, is a 10-yard split.
Well, I mean, it
So
depends
you're
on what I'm
cooked.
playing, though. It depends on what I'm playing. So, like, if I'm up front of this trenches, it's gonna be a little bit different. I need that ten
That's
yard
true.
split.
Yeah.
But as a man, what would I play? I would probably be like a slow slot. That's probably what I would be. It's like I won't
And then
be
I'd
operating
have
with
to play.
quickness, but I can catch and well, I can't
Slots
catch.
literally the only
I kind of
possession I can
suck,
play.
guys. I'm not gonna
Position.
be an NFL player. There's a reason I'm
I'm.
I'm hosting a podcast and not
Yeah.
on an NFL field. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So really quick, let's wrap this up. I got Chiefs
Apparently,
by
hold on. Apparently, like the Jets GM like just got hired like
Oh, did
15
he?
minutes ago. Like I don't. We were talking about
Yeah. So
longer
that would
than
have been
15
right
minutes ago.
after we
So
were talking about him then.
did we break the news? No, okay. I don't know how they're just like saying it now because I saw like a article about it saying it yesterday or something. Yeah,
Interesting.
Jets Wire, USA Today,
Oh,
January
yeah. Yeah.
24th at
It says
12 p.m.
Schefter 17 minutes ago. So
Yeah.
interesting. Um, okay.
Josiah Anderson reported yesterday. That's what it was. Josina. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I'll say I got the Chiefs by 3. Pierce said I think he said he has the Bills by 3. So
Mhm.
yeah, he says Bills by game-winning field goal. Um,
Wow.
okay, yeah. So uh you and I both got the Eagles. He's got the Commanders. You and I both oh no. So you and him both have the Bills, you and Pierce, and then I have the Chiefs. So
Yeah.
um all right. Well, yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. Oh, I will mention, man, we really ran over. Uh,
Started
uh,
yapping.
this is another episode where we were like, oh, this could be a short episode. Let's switch up. But uh,
You were
we'll
realizing it's never going to be.
yeah, exactly. It never is because we
Yeah.
always fill in the time somehow. Um, Uh, we were. I probably should have said this earlier. We were gonna plan to do our collab mock drafts today, but I mean, actually, it was planned for like earlier this week, but we just the time frame never worked out. All of our schedules were never aligning right. Even today, we were gonna try and record, and it was just like, never mind. All of our schedules changed. So me and Ayush just decided to hop on because Pierce had something come up. He got busy. So we were just like, okay, yeah, we got to get out, especially because of game picks. We're not going to be making game picks after the fact, although that would help especially would help Ayush and Pierce's
Yeah.
sorry as records in their
But you're just
predictions.
picking the best team in every one.
Yeah,
You're
well,
picking the better
am I
team.
get am I getting them wrong? No, I don't think so.
You got
So
it.
the only
It's
one I
about
got
entertainment.
wrong was the Lions, which was very obvious. Like everyone picked that, and then what else I get? And then I got and I picked Tampa. So both times I picked against the Commanders, I was wrong. But so I'm kind of scared about my pick of the Eagles. But um, all right, yeah. So I guess that's gonna be a wrap for us. Like I said, we're gonna reschedule for next week for the collab mock. We'll probably just have what we'll probably do is have like the PFF. I don't know if I could share two things because it would be kind of nice if I could put like my top best available and then have it lined up with the like PFF mock draft simulator.
Maybe
And
do like
then
the side, but you know how you can like merge two windows together and you can share that maybe.
yeah, that's actually true. That's true. I didn't think about that because it only let me like pull up one like individual tab, but that's probably what we'll do. Um So yeah, and we're gonna figure out a time for all three of us to be on there. We're not gonna like I that's why we ended up doing this today, talking about the coaches because the collab mock we all want to do together. So and then hopefully down the road, and we haven't really talked about it, but hopefully down the road we do another collab mock with some of our offsides guys. We used to run a brand called Offsides on Instagram, and I guess we had a website and all that, and it was kind of cool. We always talk about Alec on this podcast. He was one of the main pioneers of that. Us three, uh, me, Alec, and Yush all did that together. We're gonna see if we can get like some of our old, people that we worked with on offsides, get them on a collab mock like in a month or whatever as well, and then like you know have a super panel like assemble
That'd be
the
crazy.
Avengers
Yeah.
and then make our picks and all that. That'll be really fun. That'll be a good episode. But all right, yeah. So we're about to hit the hour and a half marker. So we're gonna go right before that, but yeah, thank you guys for listening. You can find me on X at DJ Scouting. Change my username, by the way.
Oh, really?
And then
Shoot.
yeah, and then felt a little bit more on brand. And then you
Yeah.
can find Ayush at Two Biscuits with a Z on X. So, all right, we will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening. Yippee!